we're about to stay with this story. So joining us now on the line, we have the Attorney General, Faris Al-Rawi. Good evening, Mr. AG.
Good evening to you and good evening to your listening viewership. Pleasure to be with you.
Thank you for joining us. Of course, we've been talking about the top story tonight, about the ruling that came down on Thursday following legal action challenging the acting appointment of Gary Griffith as police commissioner. Now, Mr. AG, tell us, how do you view the developments coming out of Justice Kangalu's ruling on Thursday?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I intend to do a very fulsome press conference, which will deal with all of the matters of concern, in particular, the terrible misrepresentations and allegations made by Mrs. Persad Bissessar. That requires a much longer occasion. I'd just like you to note for now that I thoroughly reject the statements coming from the leader of the opposition, who ought to know better. I'm very pleased to receive the judgment of Madam Justice Kangalu, and you will note that the judge was quite clear in her position that she accepted the Attorney General's case. What has happened is, quite simply, there has been a clarification of the Constitution. That is something which has given multiple limbs of consideration. One of the major points for the country to look at right now is what will replace the 2009 acting appointment order that was struck down by the court. It is a serious amount of inconsistency for Mrs. Persad Bissessar to be now speaking about that, because it was that very order that she and Mr. Ramlogan used to appoint Mr. Williams, Stephen Williams, on multiple occasions over many years. I'd like to say there's nothing wrong with the law developing and clarifications happening. This happens all the time. Laws are constantly reviewed. The judge, in upholding the Attorney General's case and in preserving the 2021 order in the way that she did, provided important clarification on the Constitution, and we have to digest that judgment now to certainly look at how it is the management of the interpretation goes alongside with the practical functionings. But I intend to do a fulsome press conference to deal with Mrs. Persad Bissessar and the terrible untruths that she told the nation in her press conference today in particular.
And of course, Mr. AG, we look forward to that press conference from you. But one more question. You mentioned now the order that's there has to be replaced. In terms of time frame, how quickly can this be done to try to sort out this situation we're in right now?
That's already underway. The team of attorneys that are looking at this matter together with me, led by Mr. Douglas Mendez, Senior Counsel, Mr. Rishi Das, we are looking at all of these positions together. You have to understand, this 2009 order is something that is a major issue. It is something that has to be looked at now. This is not what Mr. Ramlogan went to court to look at. It is the very order that Mrs. Persad Bissessar and Mr. Ramlogan relied upon for 5 years and 3 months of their tenure. So I would like you to pay close attention to what the reality of this case is, as opposed to the fabrications that are being fed into the news cycle.
With no actual commissioner of police in place right now, acting or permanent, will there be any impact on the state of emergency currently in place in TNT?
No, not at all. The Prime Minister has correctly spoken to the issue of the management of the police service. There is a Deputy Commissioner of Police properly appointed, contrary to what Mrs. Persad Bissessar said today, and there are mechanisms to attend to this in law. There is the population of the Police Service Commission, and there are the other matters that will be attended to. These are quite simple processes. You just have to abide by what the Constitution says at this point. So I'm quite confident that this can be dealt with in the shortest possible time.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. AG. Of course, as he mentioned, he will hold a press conference, talk some more about this matter. All right.